One day, when Cortana was flying around in space, when she suddenly discovered something on her sensors, some strange object in distance. As as she get closer to it, she discovered it's those giant robot or something. She never seen anything like it, but she decided to bring it back to her base to a small inhabitable planet. There, she placed this giant robot on a sort of table. She started doing some examining the robot. She has never seen this kind of robot design before or never heard about any civilizations that build this kind of robots. But when she tried some scanning on it, it detected that this life energy or at least the power source has been depleted somehow. She cannot determine how long this robot has been drifted around in space. She could only speculate it could have been for days, could be for months, years, or perhaps even centuries. But she had no idea how long this robot had been there. But especially this symbol on it. The symbol on the robot was very particular to her. She had never seen it before. But after they had been examined this robot, she discovered how a way to restore its power. She managed to restore its power, and but soon enough for its power had been restored. The robot slowly woken up and set up, and this robot looked around, very confused, and were curious and mostly wondered where he was looking at. And when he saw Cortana standing nearby the table, he said, "Who are you? And where am I? Where am I? I demand answer!" And but he discovered that when he scanned her, she wasn't even alive. He first thought that she was a human being, after described as before, but it wasn't a human because he couldn't detect any life signs from her. In fact, he saw that she was an artificial intelligence or an AI. But though that he then asked the demand for any answers, where he is, and what this Autobot lab were. But she said that her name was Cortana and that this is her base, but she never heard about the Autobots or what he called them. But then she asked him who he is and who built him and where he is from. He said that his name was Soundwave and he is a member of the Decepticons of the planet from the planet Cybertron. But Cortana mentioned that she has never heard about the Autobots, Decepticons, or even the planet Cybertron. Soundwave. Then he directed his weapon against her, but for some reason inside his conscience, he didn't fire. In fact, he lowered his weapon, but he was still very much on high alert. This could still be very much an Autobot trick. But for some reason, though, he couldn't explain it. She doesn't even seem to be very much like the Autobots. In fact, she didn't even look like any remotely close to his robotic size. Then he asked her, where is she from? She explained that she is from the planet Earth. And then he explained that Decepticons and Autobots has been a fight for millions of years. After that, she asked him, what about Decepticons and Autobots? He explained that they have been in a fight for millions of years on their own planet and later on the planet Earth. But she explains there's never been any recorded history about some giant robots fighting on Earth, either in the past or in present. Which they will later explain, though, to him. Something this wasn't even right. She asks him, what is the last memory of before he was woken up here? He remembers that he was in a fight against some of the Decepticon, the Autobots, during it when they opened this fire bridge on Cybertron. But suddenly, he went something wrong, terribly wrong, and then the last thing he remembers before he woke up here was that he was adrift in space somewhere, and somehow this unstable space bridge must have drained his power source, which the only explanation to him though. Though Cortana had some more questions to him about this Cybertron. Soundwave explained Cybertron was a planet built and even inhabited by robotic life forms like himself, but they're mostly barren, almost abandoned, because after billions of millions of years of in fighting against each other in a civil war. Then she tried to explain, even ask where Cybertron could have been located in the galaxy, just in case if this planet was exist but never been heard of. But he didn't know exactly which locations, because it seems that this planet could be traveling around the galaxy without any part of any solar system. So that would make it even harder for her to even confirm if this is possible. To her, it's still that impossible that Soundwave could still be part of some alien life form or be part of some sort of part of an ancient civilization that even that he could be programmed by some false memory. But they would not explain though that for some reason there has never been any recorded history from either races known in the galaxy had encountered this type of robotic life form before. Even after all of this, Cortana started to had to trust Soundwave of what he's telling her it is truth. After their discussions, Cortana decided to leave him alone so be that he can have some thoughts by himself. In fact, Soundwave started thinking if he should leave this base of hers and decide to go find Cybertron on his own. But in fact, even if he did, he had no idea if this Cybertron even existed in this universe, or at least in part of this galaxy. After figuring out that Earth was not the same Earth that he had been on, and it later turned out from his somehow explanations, even for some after gain access to some of Cortana's research about Earth's current condition, this development they had, he can even confirm the same his suspicions. Somehow this unstable space bridge from Cybertron had sent them to a different universe. A completely different, like an ultimate universe, where Cybertron never existed. And that makes him the only one of his kind in this universe. He had asked her if it was possible for him to rebuild this space bridge. And she explained that it is possible to build this space bridge. But she even explained to him, even if he managed to build it, this is not a guarantee that he will be sent back to his universe. Since she explains, the possibility for a universe is almost infinity. It is also endless of possibilities of different universes. He could still be transported to one ultimate universe, but it could still to be a completely different one. In that one, Cybertron could have still been exist, and that his kind never been a war against Autobots, or perhaps Cybertron could have been completely wasteland, and that his kind had been extinct for even millions of years. And he understood that might be right though, even if that has a point. But there's just one problem. He cannot even just go from this universe and back to the next one and so back unto Cortana's universe. It would not be possible because even if he managed to find out the way back, it was not possible. Soundwave has no idea what to do next. But his plan and his programming was to do conquering. But he couldn't conquer this universe or this by himself. But after that he has seen how much Cortana has spending all her time to be research about almost anything. And especially seeing how advanced her AI programming are and how advanced her artificial body is. It's even more advanced than is his own, different programming. She also had the ability to alter her appearance. It's like she could appear as a man, she could appear as a kid, and she's very much different from his own kind. Even took him very long time to get her trust. But after a real some time of working together, Soundwave has started to actually enjoy her company. But even if that was true, Cortana was hadn't somehow feeling some affection towards to Soundwave. But to her, it sounded a little bit strange because she had never been affection, had any feelings towards another life form like before. She did have some feelings towards her old friend John, who was a former super soldier who also went in hiding after he had been officially been declared dead. But Cortana, she started to like him, and he had actually told her a lot more about Cybertron's history, about his kind, and even allowed her to scan him to make some figure out how he is working. Like if there's possibility to somehow duplicate or maybe manufacture a similar robot in his design or perhaps a similar construction. But it turned out it was a little bit complicated because his design was even unlike any other alien technology that she had ever encountered. Even she were able to build some sort of robot designs of her, of him, or perhaps something similar. It probably would have taken decades, or perhaps even centuries, to be able to complete or even perfect a robot in his similar design. So they decided maybe it was best just to abandon that particular project. But they decided maybe it was best for them to stay on this particular planet. But after some time, Soundwave, he felt there was very unlikely that he would ever be a peaceful living on this barren planet. He wanted to be out in the universe, exploring. But after Cortana had explained to Soundwave about the different cultures in the galaxy, some are so advanced, and even if he was spotted by United Earth government, they were probably tracking him down and even taking him back to Earth or perhaps to one of those heavily guarded facilities and try to study him, try to figure out who built him. And their test could have been even more painful than her did. She has never performed any painful tests on him. Only she has done some scannings and some just a similar minor exam on his body herself, but otherwise she has never been harming him. And even for his mind, this was something that she had a point. He couldn't just leave the base and travel around the galaxy by himself and been at risk of being discovered either by humans or perhaps one of their allies. Because who knows if they discover him, believing that he is somehow a scout for an alien race that might be in an invading galaxy far far away. So he decided it was best not to do that in order to be discovered. They can also be trying to somehow probing his mind, and if they manage to do that, and if they somehow figure out that he had been in contact with Cortana, and even knowing her exact position, they would know that Cortana is still very much alive, and that she had been doing a lot of research on her own, which she could risk to letting him go though, but she couldn't force him to stay. But they decided it was best to stay together. But after nearly about a year of being on this particular planet, they both decided it was maybe best to leave it and go somewhere else. Because they recently discovered of an Earth vessel only several light years away, so they both decided it's best just to abandon this particular base because it was a big risk that they could be discovered. So they discovered another planet even further away, which also barren, lifeless planet, which they could build a new home. But just before they do that, they destroyed their old base by using an asteroid from an orbit, managed to crash down on the base and just vaporizing completely. The new base was located on a planet about 20 light years away from the old one. But during this particular place, though, they managed to somehow redevelop the technology that gave life to Cortana. And they managed to develop some more artificially intelligent life forms like herself, but they were somehow designed with different appearance. Some could be taller, shorter, or about the same height as her. But during the design, it was at the same time that they did that. They had to get even more romantically involved with each other. In fact, around the same time when they had to settle on this new planet, they had started to be a romantic couple. Even if her Soundwave thought that it never going to happen, or perhaps even this was the wrong way, because he's a bad guy. All he wanted has known was fighting. But after spending some time with Cortana, learning about science and research and more about her culture and her dreams to build a new peaceful life herself, made him realize though somehow that his programming could have been altered, but he never did that. Somehow he overcome his own programming and decided it was best to live in peace. So he abandoned his warlike programming and became a scientist like herself. And they started building a new life together on this new planet. But after some time though, these new life forms they had created, they were actually like their own family. And after all, they were like their own children, which they later called themselves their children. And they had somehow managed to develop new life together on this new planet, even if they were never considered to be any romantic involvement somehow. But after spending so much time together on the first planet they lived on and through the travel to the new planet, they somehow managed to get more involved and express each other's feelings. Despite despite that Soundwave's feelings towards Cortana at first maybe thought that this could never have happened or will ever work because of there are two different life forms, but his programming on the fight was somehow overcome by his feelings towards her. And even they were so-called considered as married couple, but they were still very much romantic involved with each other and had started a family together. But around some times after they about 5 years after they settled on this new planet, Cortana had came in contact with Catherine Halsey and her husband, John. It turned out after Catherine had escaped from and even faked her own death from the United Government, Earth government, and John had somehow came in contact with her, they had developed their feelings toward each other also and also had formed a family. So John had invited Cortana and Soundwave to come to their planet where they lived on and live there with them. So they did. Soundwave, he was actually very much unlike to living on. He would prefer to living on a planet where he could be more somehow connected towards life. And on this new planet, though, he preferred to live there with his new partner, Cortana, and their new supposed children. Even if at first a lot of this discussion himself, would it be possible to even live with Cortana, and should he even try to get back to his old universe, to back to Decepticons and fight against the Autobots? Even just before they traveled to the second planet and their new home, he had made somehow some debating him about it to himself. Should he do it? Should he go back to his universe, try to focus on build a space bridge back to his own universe, or even to just live in this universe with Cortana? After a lot of debating with by himself, and even had debated with Cortana about this. After both of them had decided maybe it was best for him to just stay in this universe. Because even if he'd managed to go back to his universe, they were probably never going to be able to see each other again. And since they both of them had getting somehow romantically involved before then, and he didn't want to leave her by her side, so he decided that was best to just abandon his former lifestyle and to be a scientist. And somehow his skills in science was actually very improved. He's shared his knowledge of science about his kind with Cortana, and both combined to both the science to have somehow improved their own lifestyle. For much of their past of Soundwave and Cortana, they never had expressed how to find someone to be with. But after this time being together, but especially on this new small farming colony, they both actually had enjoyed this. And that's how Soundwave and Cortana found a true love and got a family together. The end.